You wake up feeling rested, ready to start the day, and you reach for what you've always believed was one of the healthiest choices you could make, a tall glass of bright, sweet juice. It's been part of your morning for years, but just imagine this one ordinary morning. As you stand at the sink, rinsing your glass, your vision blurs. Your right hand slips, dropping the cup. The room tilts, your knees buckle, and suddenly, you're on the floor, unable to move one side of your body. A stroke. In the ambulance, the paramedics ask about your medical history, your medications, and your daily habits. You mention your morning juice, expecting a nod of approval. Instead, the nurse glances at the doctor and they exchange a knowing look. The truth. This seemingly innocent juice, often praised for its vitamins and antioxidants, can be a hidden trigger for stroke risk in older adults. Not because it's inherently poison, but because aging changes how our blood vessels respond to certain compounds, natural sugars, and even minerals, in ways younger bodies can tolerate. But yours might not. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. To let me know how I can make better content for you. Today, I'm going to walk you through how this popular healthy juice could be silently pushing your stroke risk higher, and what you can do to protect your brain and heart. As we get older, our cardiovascular system undergoes changes that we can't always feel until a crisis strikes. One of the most significant shifts is in the elasticity of your arteries. When you were younger, your blood vessels expanded and contracted easily with every heartbeat. Now, after 60, those same arteries have lost some of their flexibility due to a natural process called arterial stiffening. This makes your blood vessels more sensitive to anything that can cause a sudden change in pressure or flow. The juice in question, though, celebrated for its vitamin content, contains compounds that interact with your vascular system in ways that are far more intense for seniors. For instance, certain natural plant chemicals can cause blood vessels to dilate quickly, which sounds like a good thing. But in a stiffened arterial network, that sudden dilation can disrupt stable blood pressure control, creating conditions where small clots are more likely to travel to the brain. Let me share the story of Mrs. Park, a 72-year-old retired teacher. She had been drinking a large glass of this juice every morning for heart health because she'd read it was rich in antioxidants. One afternoon, after a stressful morning, she stood up quickly from her chair and felt lightheaded. Minutes later, she was in her kitchen, holding onto the counter to keep from falling. Her doctor later explained that her already stiff arteries had overreacted to the vasoactive compounds in the juice, combined with a small dehydration episode. The result: a transient ischemic attack, a mini-stroke that served as a warning sign. This is not to say the juice is dangerous for everyone, but for seniors with less flexible arteries, even healthy foods can act like a spark in a dry forest. And if you think the biggest problem with this juice is its effect on your arteries, wait until you learn how its natural sugars quietly inflame the very blood vessels meant to protect your brain. Many seniors think that natural sugar is somehow harmless compared to the refined kind. But the truth is, your body doesn't see much difference, especially as you age. The juice we're talking about, even when labeled unsweetened or no sugar added, can still contain more than 20 grams of natural sugar per glass. For a younger, more metabolically flexible person, that sugar spike may be manageable. But for someone over 60, the story changes dramatically. Here's why with age, your insulin sensitivity often declines. That means after drinking this juice, your blood sugar can rise faster and stay high longer than it used to. High blood sugar triggers a cascade of inflammatory reactions inside your blood vessels. Microscopic damage forms along the inner lining of your arteries, making them stickier and more prone to catching platelets and cholesterol. Over time, these damaged spots can become the very sites where clots form, and if that clot travels to the brain, a stroke can follow. Let me tell you about Mr. Kim, 69, a semi-retired shop owner. Every morning he started his day with a glass of this juice, convinced it was fueling his body with health. He didn't have diabetes, so he thought there was no danger. But one morning, after feeling unusually tired and experiencing a dull headache, his wife insisted he check his blood sugar with a friend's glucometer. The reading shockingly high, well into the pre-diabetic range, despite having eaten nothing but the juice for breakfast. His doctor explained that repeated morning sugar spikes were slowly inflaming his arteries, making them more vulnerable to blockage. This isn't about demonizing sugar. It's about recognizing that in the senior body, even natural sugars from fruit juice can be a stealthy attacker working day after day to weaken your vascular health. And if the sugar content didn't surprise you, what I'm about to tell you about this juice's potassium levels might make you rethink every glass. Potassium is often praised as a heart-healthy mineral. It helps regulate heartbeat supports, muscle contractions, and balances fluid levels. For many younger adults, the potassium in fruit juice is considered a nutritional benefit. But for seniors, especially those with reduced kidney function, too much potassium can be dangerous. Here's why your kidneys are responsible for filtering excess potassium from your blood. As you age, kidney efficiency naturally declines, even if your blood tests look normal. When you drink this juice daily, the potassium load can quickly accumulate. High potassium levels, known as hyperkalemia, can disrupt the electrical signals in your heart, potentially leading to dangerous arrhythmias or even sudden cardiac arrest. And when your heart rhythm becomes unstable, the risk of a clot forming and traveling to the brain increases sharply. Consider the case of Mrs. Lee, a 74-year-old grandmother with mildly reduced kidney function. She had no major health complaints, but during a routine checkup, her doctor noticed her potassium was edging toward the upper limit. She admitted she'd been drinking 2 glasses of this juice every morning for the past year. Her doctor warned her that if her potassium climbed just a bit higher, she could experience muscle weakness, severe fatigue, or an irregular heartbeat, all of which could set the stage for a stroke if blood flow to the brain became compromised. The problem isn't that potassium is bad. It's that in the aging body, the line between enough and too much is much thinner. And because high potassium symptoms can be subtle until they're severe, Many seniors don't realize they're at risk until an emergency strikes. If the potassium risk wasn't enough to give you pause, the next concern is how this juice can send your blood pressure on a dangerous roller coaster, sometimes within minutes of drinking it. Blood pressure stability is one of the most important factors in stroke prevention. For seniors, sudden spikes or drops can be catastrophic, increasing the chance that a fragile blood vessel in the brain will rupture or a clot will suddenly lodge in a narrowed artery. The juice we're discussing contains natural compounds that can have a potent, almost drug-like effect on blood pressure regulation. In some people, these compounds cause rapid vasodilation, widening of the blood vessels, which may result in an abrupt drop in blood pressure. For others, especially those with certain sensitivities or pre-existing hypertension, it can cause a rebound effect, spiking blood pressure instead. Either way, your cardiovascular system is jolted out of its steady rhythm, and that instability increases the risk of a stroke. Take Mr. Choi, a 66-year-old former construction foreman. He had been managing his mild hypertension with medication and was feeling well. But he noticed that on days he drank his morning juice, he often felt flushed and dizzy afterward. One afternoon, after an early glass of juice, he stood up from his sofa and nearly collapsed. His blood pressure had plummeted. Later that day, it rebounded sharply, triggering a severe headache and temporary vision problems. His doctor explained that these sudden swings put enormous stress on his blood vessels, and that the juice was a likely contributor. In younger bodies, this effect may be minimal or even beneficial, but in seniors with stiffened arteries and less responsive nervous systems, such fluctuations can be like shaking a fragile glass vase. Sooner or later, it may crack. And while blood pressure swings are alarming, what's even more dangerous is how this juice can silently interfere with the very medications meant to protect you from stroke. One of the most overlooked dangers for seniors is how certain foods and drinks interact with prescription medications. This juice, despite its wholesome image, contains bioactive compounds that can alter how your body absorbs or metabolizes some of the most common drugs prescribed to people over 60, especially those for heart health, blood pressure, and cholesterol control. For example, in some seniors, the compounds in this juice can inhibit enzymes in the liver that help break down medications. This means the drug may stay in your bloodstream longer than intended, increasing the risk of side effects like excessive blood thinning or dangerously low blood pressure. In other cases, it can block intestinal transporters, reducing the drug's effectiveness and leaving you less protected against the very conditions your medication is meant to control. Consider Mr. Han, a 70-year-old retired accountant, taking a blood thinner after a mild stroke 2 years ago. He prided himself on eating healthy and drank a glass of this juice daily, believing it supported his recovery. But one day he noticed unexplained bruising on his arms and gums, bleeding after brushing his teeth. Blood tests revealed his medication levels were much higher than they should have been, putting him at risk for a hemorrhagic stroke. His doctor quickly identified the juice as a likely culprit. Its compounds had slowed the breakdown of his medication, letting it build up in his system. This kind of interaction is insidious, because it doesn't produce immediate, obvious symptoms until something serious happens. And for seniors juggling multiple prescriptions, the combined effect can be unpredictable and dangerous. If you thought drug interference was the most alarming issue, wait until you hear the story of a man whose daily juice habit brought him face to face with a stroke scare in the most unexpected way. Mr. Han, 68, a retired high school principal, was the picture of health in his neighborhood. He took daily walks, maintained a balanced diet, and was proud of keeping his blood pressure under control. One of his most cherished morning rituals was pouring himself a tall glass of this juice, believing it was the perfect way to feed his heart and brain. He had read countless articles praising its antioxidant power, and was convinced it was a pillar of his longevity. One summer morning, after returning from his usual walk, he drank his juice as always. About 30 minutes later, while chatting with his wife, he suddenly felt a strange heaviness in his right arm. His words began to slur, and his wife noticed the right side of his mouth drooping. She immediately recognized the signs of a stroke and called emergency services. At the hospital, doctors confirmed he had experienced a transient ischemic attack, or TIA, a temporary blockage of blood flow to the brain. Thankfully, the clot dissolved on its own, and he avoided permanent damage. But the medical team's questions revealed a surprising link. Blood tests showed an unusually high potassium level, mild dehydration, and blood pressure fluctuations, all consistent with the juice's known effects on seniors. Combined with a mild interaction with his cholesterol medication, the perfect storm had formed. Mr. Han was shocked. "I thought I was doing everything right," he told his doctor. "How could something so healthy be part of the problem?" The answer was simple, yet sobering in the context of aging, arteries, changing kidney function, and certain medications. Even a superfood can become a hidden threat. Mr. Han's story is a powerful reminder that good intentions alone aren't enough to protect your health. You also need the right information. And that brings us to the question so many seniors are asking: how much of this juice is actually safe? The truth may surprise you. For decades, the mantra, "everything in moderation," has been the guiding principle for healthy eating. Many seniors apply this to juice, believing that a small daily glass, often described as just 8 ounces, is harmless. But recent research into aging physiology suggests that for older adults, even moderate intake can have cumulative effects over time. The reality is that safe intake limits aren't one size fits all. Factors such as kidney function medication, use blood pressure, stability, and blood sugar control all play a role in determining how much of this juice your body can safely handle. For some healthy seniors, a small glass once or twice a week might be fine. But for others, especially those with vascular or metabolic vulnerabilities, even this amount could gradually raise their stroke risk. Take the example of Mrs. Cho, 71, who enjoyed her juice every morning as part of breakfast. She thought she was being careful, only 1 glass a day, never more. But over the years, she began to experience more frequent dizzy spells and fatigue. Blood tests revealed slightly elevated potassium levels and borderline high fasting blood sugar. Her doctor connected these subtle shifts to her daily juice habit, which had quietly stressed her cardiovascular and metabolic systems for years. The biggest myth is that a glass a day keeps the doctor away. In truth, the senior body processes concentrated nutrients differently than a younger one. Without the fiber of whole fruit to slow absorption, the natural sugars and bioactive compounds hit your system all at once, magnifying their impact. So, what's the takeaway? Moderation must be defined not by general advice, but by your personal health profile. That's why understanding safer hydration options, ones that nourish your heart and brain without these hidden risks, is the next step to protecting yourself. When it comes to hydration, seniors often believe their only healthy options are water, tea, or juice, but there's a wide range of alternatives that can quench your thirst, support your heart and brain, and avoid the pitfalls we've discussed. One of the best replacements is infused water. Simply adding slices of lemon, cucumber, or berries to water creates a refreshing drink with trace vitamins and antioxidants, but without the concentrated sugar load. Another excellent choice is herbal tea, such as hibiscus or rooibos, which can provide vascular support without causing dangerous spikes or drops in blood pressure. For those who want something slightly sweet, diluted juice can be a middle ground. Mixing 1 part juice with 3 parts water still offers flavor, but significantly reduces the sugar, potassium, and bioactive compound concentration. Coconut water in moderation can also be a good choice, but it's important to monitor potassium levels if you have kidney concerns. Let me share the story of Mr. Seo, 73, who loved his morning juice but was told by his doctor to cut back after a minor TIA. At first, he felt deprived until he began making a morning vitality drink with chilled water, lemon slices, a pinch of cinnamon, and a few crushed blueberries. Within weeks, he noticed fewer dizzy spells, steadier energy, and more stable blood pressure readings. His doctor confirmed that his lab results had improved, and his potassium levels had returned to the safe range. The key is to choose drinks that hydrate you slowly and gently, rather than delivering a sudden nutritional overload. This not only protects your arteries, but also keeps your brain supplied with a consistent flow of oxygen-rich blood. Now that we've covered safer options, it's time to tie everything together and discuss how you can protect both your heart and brain for years to come, without giving up the pleasure of a refreshing morning drink. As we've seen, aging changes the way your body processes even the most innocent-looking foods and drinks. What was once harmless or even beneficial can quietly become a health hazard when combined with stiffened arteries, reduced kidney efficiency, and the medications that many seniors rely on. The juice we've been discussing isn't inherently bad, but in the context of the senior body, its concentrated sugars, potassium, and bioactive compounds can trigger a perfect storm for stroke risk. The core message here is simple: knowledge is power. By understanding how your body changes after 60, you can make smarter choices that protect your heart, brain, and independence. And the good news is, you don't have to give up flavor or enjoyment to stay safe. Instead of a daily glass of concentrated juice, try these brain-safe alternatives. Berries, low in sugar, high in antioxidants, and gentle on blood sugar. Avocados, Rich in healthy fats that support brain cell membranes, leafy greens, packed with folate and vitamin K for vascular health. Unsweetened herbal teas, hydrating and naturally rich in beneficial plant compounds without sugar spikes. Citrus slices in water provides refreshing flavor and vitamin C without overwhelming your system. Lightly blended vegetable juices. If you must have juice, combine low-sugar vegetables like cucumber, celery, and spinach. Here are some actionable rules to follow. If you drink juice, keep portions small, no more than 4 ounces. Pair it with protein or healthy fats to slow sugar absorption. Avoid drinking it on an empty stomach, especially first thing in the morning. Never drink it right before bed when your body is less active in processing sugar. You are not powerless against the changes that come with age. By making these adjustments, you can keep enjoying your mornings without gambling with your brain's health. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every piece of knowledge you gain is another step toward a longer, healthier, more vibrant life.